Hi guys, this is Niranjan to you from DG Vaishnav College doing my second year BSc Computer Science. I'm going to speak on the topic DHTML, style sheets and web page designing. Let's go on to the video.
Dynamic HTML or DHTML is a collection of technologies used together to create interactive and animated websites. By using a combination of static markup language such as HTML, a client-side scripting language such as JavaScript, a presentation definition language such as CSS, and the document object model DOM. The application of DHTML was introduced by Microsoft with the release of Internet Explorer 4 in 1997. Today, references to unobtrusive JavaScript coding DOM scripting have replaced the usage of term DHTML. DHTML allows scripting languages to change variables in a web page's definition language, which in turn affects the look and the function of otherwise static HTML page content. After the page has been fully loaded and during the viewing process, thus the dynamic characteristic of DHTML is the way it functions while a page is viewed, not in its ability to generate a unique page with each page load. By contrast, a dynamic web page is a broader concept covering any web page generated differently for each user, load occurrence or specific variable values. This includes pages created by client-side scripting and ones created by server-side scripting, such as PHP, Python, JSP or ASP.NET, where the web server generates content before sending it to the client. DHTML is differentiated from AJAX by the fact that a DHTML page is still request or reload based. With DHTML, there may not be any interaction between the client and server after the page is loaded. All processing happens in JavaScript on the client side. By contrast, an AJAX page uses features of DHTML to initiate a request or sub-request to the server to perform additional actions. For example, if there are multiple tabs on a page, pure DHTML approach would load the contents of all tabs and then dynamically display only that ones that is active, while AJAX could load each tab only when it is really needed. Now let's go on to the style sheets. Cascading style sheets (CSS) describe how documents are presented on screens in print or perhaps how they are pronounced. W3C has actively promoted the use of style sheets on the web since the consortium was founded in 1994. Cascading style sheets provide easy and effective alternatives to specify various attributes for the HTML tags using CSS. You can specify a number of style properties for a given HTML element. Each property by a colon, each property declaration is separated by a semicolon. Now live demo to you. You can see there are two programs in here and we can show that the differences in this. We can rewrite above examples with the help of a style sheet as follows. Now the result is same. Hello world. You can use CSS in three ways in your HTML document. External style sheet. Define style sheets rules in a separate CSS file and then include that file in your HTML document using HTML link tag. Internal style sheet. Define style sheet rules in header section of the HTML document using style tag. Inline style sheet. Definition style sheet rules directly along with the HTML elements using style attributes. Let's see all the three cases one by one with the help of suitable examples. External style sheet. If you need to use your style sheet to various pages, then it's always recommended to define a common style sheet in a separate file. A cascading style sheet file will have extensions as .css and it will be included in HTML files using link tag. Example. Consider we define a style sheet file style.css which has following rules. Color red, thick, font size equal to 20px, green, color green. Here we define three CSS rules which will be applicable to three different classes defined for the HTML tags. I suggest you should not bother about how these rules are being defined because you will learn them while studying CSS. Now let's make use of the above extended CSS file in our following HTML document. Now you can see the example. This will produce a result in the same colors as we have given the orders. Now let's go on to the next one. Internal style sheet. If you want to apply style sheet rules to a single document only, then you can include those rules in a header section of the HTML document using style tag. Rules defined in internal style sheet override the rules defined in an external CSS file. Example. Let's rewrite about example once again, but here we will write style sheet rules in the same HTML document using style tag. The example. Now, to the next one, inline style sheet. You can apply style sheet rules directly to any HTML element using style attribute of the relevant tag. This should be done only when you are interested to make a particular change in any HTML element only. Rules defined in line with the element overrides the rules defined in an external CSS file as well as the rules defined in style element. Example. Let's rewrite above example once again. But here we will write style sheet rules along with the HTML elements using style attributes of those elements. Now you can see the example and the result is same. And now after saying the HTML and style sheets, let's go on to the topic web design. Web design encompasses many different skills and disciplines in the production and maintenance of websites. The different areas of web design include web graphic design, user interface design (UI design), authoring, include standardized code and proprietary software user experience design (UX design), and search engine optimization. Often many individuals will work in terms covering different aspects of the design process, although some designers will cover them all. The term web design is normally used to describe the design process relating to the front-end client-side design of a website including writing markup. Web design partially overlaps web engineering in the broader scope of web development. Web designers are expected to have an awareness of usability, and if their role involves creating markup, then they are also expected to be up to date with web accessibility guidelines. Now let's see about the history. 1988 to 2001. Although web design has a fairly recent history, it can be linked to other areas such as graphic design, user experience, and multimedia arts, but is more aptly seen from a technological standpoint. It has become a large part of people's everyday lives. It is hard to imagine the internet without animated graphics, different style of typography, background, videos, and music. The start of the web and web design. In 1989, whilst working at CERN, Tim Berners-Lee proposed to create a global hypertext project which later became known as the World Wide Web. During 1991 to 1993, the World Wide Web was born. Text-only pages could be viewed using a simple line mode browser. In 1993, Mark Anderson and Eric Bina created the Mosaic browser. At that time, there were multiple browsers. However, the majority of them were Unix-based and naturally text-heavy. There had been no integrated approach to graphic design elements such as images or sounds. The Mosaic browser broke this mold. The W3C was created in October 1994 to lead the World Wide Web to its full potential by developing common protocols that promote its evolution and ensure its interoperability. This discouraged any one company from monopolizing a property, browser, and programming language, which could have altered the effect of the World Wide Web as a whole. The W3C continues to set standards which can today be seen with JavaScript and other languages. In 1994, Anderson formed Mosaic Communications Corp. That later became known as Netscape Communications. The Netscape 0.9 browser, Netscape, created its own HTML tags without regard to its traditional standard process. For example, Netscape 1.1 included tags for changing background colors and formatting text with tables on web pages. Throughout 1996 to 1999, the browser was began as Microsoft and Netscape fought for ultimate browser dominance. During this time, there were many new technologies in the field, notably cascading style sheets, JavaScript, and dynamic HTML. On the whole, the web browser competition did lead to many positive creations and helped web design evolve at a rapid pace. Evolution of web design. In 1996, Microsoft released its first competitive browser, which was complete with its own features and HTML tags. It was also the first browser to support style sheets, which at the time was seen as an obscure authoring technique and is today an important aspect of web design. The HTML markup for tables was originally intended for displaying tabular data. However, designers quickly realized the potential of using HTML tables for creating the complex multi-column layouts that were otherwise not possible. At this time, as design and good aesthetics seemed to take precedence over good markup structure, and little attention was paid to semantics and web accessibility. HTML sites were limited in their design options, even more so with earlier versions of HTML. To create complex designs, many web designers had to use complicated table structures or even use blank spacer.gif images to stop empathy table cells from collapsing. CSS was introduced in December 1996 by the W3C to support presentation and layout. This allowed HTML code to be semantic rather than both semantic and presentational, and improved web accessibility. See tableless web design. In 1996, Flash, originally known as Future Splash, was developed. At that time, the Flash content development tool was relatively simple compared to now. Using basic layout and drawing tools, a limited precursor to ActionScript and a timeline, but it enabled web designers to go beyond the point of HTML, animated GIFs, and JavaScript. However, because Flash required a plugin, many web developers avoided using it for fear of limiting their market share due to lack of compatibility. Instead, designers reverted to GIF animations if they didn't forego using motion graphics altogether, and JavaScript are for widgets. But the benefits of Flash made it popular enough among specific target markets to eventually work its way to the vast majority of browsers and powerful enough to be used to develop entire sites. End of the first browser was 1995 to 2001. In 1998, Netscape released Netscape Communicator Code under an open source license, enabling thousands of developers to participate in improving the software. However, these developers decided to start a standard for the web from scratch, which guided the development of the open source browser and the soon expanded to a complete application platform. The Web Standards project was formed from promoted browser compliance with HTML and CSS standards. Programs like ACID 1, ACID 2, and ACID 3 were created in order to test browsers for compliance with the web standards. In 2000, Internet Explorer was released for Mac, which was the first browser that fully supported HTML 4.01 and CSS 1. It was also the first browser to fully support the PNG image format. By 2001, after a campaign by Microsoft to popularize Internet Explorer, Internet Explorer had reached 96% of web browsers usage share, which signified the end of the first browsers wars as Internet Explorer had no real competition. 2001 to 2012. Since the start of the 21st century, the web has become more and more integrated into people's lives. As this has happened, the technology of the web has also moved on. There have also been significant changes in the way people use and access the web, and this has changed how sites are designed. Since the end of the browsers war, new browsers have been released. Many of these are open source, meaning that they tend to have faster development and are more supportive of new standards. The new options are considered by many words to be better than Microsoft's Internet Explorer. The W3C has released new standards for HTML, HTML5 and CSS3, as well as new JavaScript APIs. Each has a new but individual standard. While the term HTML5 is only used to refer to the new version of HTML and some of the JavaScript APIs, it has become common to use it to refer to the entire suite of new standards HTML5, CSS3, and JavaScript. Now let's go on to the tools and technologies. Web designers use a variety of different tools depending on what part of the production process they are involved in. These tools are updated over time by newer standards and software, but the principles behind them remain the same. Web designers use both vector and raster graphics editors to create web formatted imagery or design prototypes. Technologies used to create websites include W3C standards like HTML and CSS, which can be hand-coded or generated by WYSI editing software. Other tools web designers might use include markup validators and other testing tools for usability and accessibility to ensure their websites meet web accessibility guidelines. Now let's go on to the skills and techniques. Marketing and communication design. Marketing and communication design on a website may identify that works for its target's market. This can be an age group of particular strand of culture. Thus, the designer may understand the trends of its audience. Designers may also understand the type of website they are designing, meaning, for example, that B2B, business to business website design considerations might differ greatly from a consumer targeted website such as a retail or entertainment website. Careful consideration might be made to ensure that the aesthetics or overall design of a site do not clash with the clarity and accuracy of the content of the ease of the web navigation. Especially on a B2B website, designers may also consider the reputation of a owner of business or business the site is representing to make sure they are portrayed favorably. User experience design and interactive design. User understanding of the content of a website often depends on user understanding of how the website works. This is part of the user experience design. User experience is related to layout, clear instructions, and labeling on a website. How well a user understands how they can interact on a site may also depend on the interactive design of the site. If a user perceives the usefulness of the website, they are more likely to continue using it. Users who are skilled and well versed with website use may find a more distinctive yet less intuitive or less user friendly website interface usually useful nonetheless. However, users with less experience are less likely to see the advantages or usefulness of a less intuitive website interface. This drives the trend for a more universal user experience and ease of access to accommodate as many users as possible regardless of user scale. Much of the user experience design and interactive design are considered in the user interface design. Advanced interactive functions may require plugins if not advanced coding language skills. Choosing whether or not to use interactivity that requires plugins is a critical decision in user experience design. If the plugin doesn't come pre-installed with most browsers, there's a risk that the user will have neither the know-how or the patience to install a plugin just to access the content. If the function requires advanced coding language skills, it may be too costly in either time or money to code compared to the amount of enhancement the function will add to the user experience. There is also a risk that advanced interactivity may be incompatible with older browsers or hardware configurations. Publishing a function that doesn't work reliably is potentially worse for the user experience than making no attempt. It depends on the target audience if it's likely to be needed or worth any risks. Page layout. Part of the user interface design is affected by the quality of page layout. For example, a designer may consider whether the site's page layout should remain consistent or on different pages when designing the layout. Page pixel width may also be considered vital for aligning objects in the layout design. The most popular fixed width websites generally have the same set width to match the current most popular browser window. At the current most popular sense a screen resolution on the current most popular monitor size. Most pages are also center aligned for concerns of aesthetics on large screens. The other techniques are fluid layouts, typography, motion graphics, quality of code, generated static websites, dynamic websites, and now let's go on to the topic homepage design. Let's go on to this. Usability experts including Jacob Nielsen and Kyle Saucy have often emphasized homepage design for website success and asserted that the homepage is the most important page on a website. Nielsen, Jacob, Tahir, Mary, October 2001, Homepage Usability, 50 websites reconstructed. New Riders Publishing. However, practitioners into the 2000s were starting to find that a growing number of website traffic was bypassing the homepage, going directly to internal content pages through search engines, e-newsletters, and RSS feeds, leading many practitioners to argue that homepages are less important than most people think. Jad Spool argued in 2000 that a site's homepage was actually the least important page on a website. In 2012 and 13, carousels, also called sliders and rotating banners, have become an externally popular design element on homepages, often used to showcase featured or recent content in a confined space. Many practitioners argue that carousels are an ineffective design element and hurt a website's search engine optimization and usability. Now let's go on to occupations. There are two primary jobs involved in creating a website: the web designer and the web developer, who often work closely together on a website. The web designers are responsible for the visual aspect, which includes the layout, coloring, and typography of a web page. Web designers will also have a working knowledge of markup languages such as HTML and CSS. Although the extent of their knowledge will differ from one web designer to another, particularly in smaller organizations, one person will need the necessary skills for designing and programming the full web page, which larger organizations may have a web designer responsible for the visual aspect alone. Further jobs which may become involved in creating of a website include graphic designers to create visuals for the site such as logos, layouts, and buttons. Internet marketing specialists to help maintain web presence through strategic solutions on targeting viewers to the site by using marketing and promotional techniques on the internet. SEO writers to research and recommend the correct words to be incorporated into a particular website and make the website more accessible and found on numerous search engines. Internet copywriter to create the written content of the page to appeal to the targeted viewers of the site. User experience UX designer incorporates aspects of user focused design considerations which include information architecture, user centered design, user testing, interaction design, and occasionally visual design. Now that's it. Thank you.
Hope you guys have learned about DHTML, style sheets, and web page designing. Thank you.